Hello, colleagues. I am talking today about the results of the 2024 bargaining survey. This is a survey that we sent out to all faculty members, those who are dues paying members, those who are not. It doesn't matter. We have a responsibility to represent everyone. It's in the law that we have to represent everyone. It is also our honor to try to represent everybody at the bargaining table as we move forward with this process. If you are a faculty member, if you're a tenure track, if you're tenured, if you're a lecturer, if you're an instructor, it doesn't matter what rank you are, we are obligated and just feel compelled to represent everyone at the bargaining table. And so we sent out this survey to everyone. It was open from January until the end of May. We repeatedly asked people to fill it out. We did get a decent number of responses. If you're a survey statistician, you can determine whether or not the end was sufficient, but it wasn't too bad, and we did get a lot of input from both dues paying members and from faculty who are not currently dues paying members. And we are in all ranks, everybody across the university. So we're very excited about the results, to share the results of this bargaining survey, and to talk a little about how it's affecting our priorities going into the bargaining session. So we asked first about everyone's priorities, and we asked it on a 1 to 10 scale. As you can see, 9.32 was the median out of 1 to 10 in terms of importance when it comes to prioritizing salary, getting better salary, securing competitive salary, and to transparency in the salary process. 8.08 went to discussing inversion. And inversion, if you're not familiar with it, is the term that we use to describe whenever there is a faculty member who is of a lower rank or has not been around as long, who's making more than a faculty member who's comparable and in the same department doing the same kind of work at a higher rank, and is been around not so long. And inversion happens a lot when the pay raises have not been sufficient to keep up with the competitive marketplace, which comes back to the number one priority, which is salary, right? And so that's what we're looking for, is to make sure that our raises are competitive with the marketplace. 7.3 was the third highest priority of the, I think it was 15 or 18 priorities that we listed. And that went to shared control. That was the median, was shared control, meaning that we share governance. We make decisions based on the knowledge that we have of our different disciplines and fields, and then cooperate and work with administration to make the best possible decisions. We don't expect to be managers. We don't want to be managers. We do want to have some shared control over things that, in the end, really, we have more information, more knowledge about than administration does. There were some places where there were strong polls, so there wasn't a strong median. The median might have been lower than 7.3. In fact, they all were. But we had a lot of people who said 9 or 10, 8, 9, and 10, and a lot of people who said 0, 1, and 2. And so it ended up being closer to 5, right? But there were a lot of people who were very concerned about it. 3 top places where we had these polls were safety. This has a lot to do with making sure that we respond meaningfully when there are students who are threatening people, or to risks of handguns within the workplace, things like that, right? Then work location was also in that strong poll camp. A lot of people, really wanted to be able to work remotely, and really wanted to be able to take advantage of the fact that most of our students now want to have remote classes, right? And then a third camp was sort of the opposite of working remotely. Like, they want more on-campus benefits, because carrots are really what get people to come back on campus. Carrots are how you get people invested in campus. So having a really good dining area for faculty to have dinner so that we can stick around for our later classes. And so we can also, have work-related meetings in a very nice faculty dining area, or a gym, or parking, the things that really bring people and make the university a great place to be, which is why so many of us became professors in the first place, because we love the university climate. So bring back the university climate. That was another one that we had a strong poll. A lot of people said 8, 9s, 10s. A lot of people said 0, 1, 2. So those are the priorities. Obviously, what wins out is salary or salary inversion. Those are the ones that really, really ring true. Both of those are affected by the pay raises, which we negotiate under state law. We must negotiate at the bargaining table. And we have to negotiate it together because that is the law of the land. So how do we do that? Well, in Nebraska, there is a law that states that we must be paid 98 to 102% of our peer institutions. There's a lot of ways to read that. And a lot of ways to do that calculus, right? First of all, you have to decide the peer institutions. So we're going to talk about that next. And then you have to decide how you make that calculation within the peer institutions to come up with the right number for us, right? The important thing here is that the legislature wanted to take it out of their hands. They didn't want the administration or any government agency cutting corners by paying so little of employees, by paying employees so little that they weren't able to get competitive employees. They literally wanted it to make sure that administration didn't cut the university budget by cutting salaries below what is competitive. That's what they did. That's why they passed this law. And so they've given administration cover. What they want to do is give administration cover to give us appropriate raises. And so that's why it's really important that we find out what our peers are making, find out who our peers are, and then pay with it, and then offer a number. Administration and us work together to find a number that's between 98 and 102% of our peers. Obviously, administration is going to fight for 98. We're going to fight for 102, right? That's where we should be. Unfortunately, our faculty believe that we are being paid an average of 82.67% of our peers, which is far below that 98%. If you zoom in on this graphic, we see that when asked a sort of more quantitative question, how many people believe they're being paid less than the 98% that is lawful, we get 74.6% of our faculty believe they're being paid unlawfully low. 98.2 or about 2%, 3% believe that or 5% rather believe that they're being paid lawfully between 98 and 102%. No one said that they were being paid more than the law, than is lawful. But a lot of people did say that they don't know, right? 21% said they don't really know how they're being paid compared to their peers in other organizations. But I think that this speaks very strongly for that 82.67% number. Maybe it's not 83%. Maybe we're exaggerating on a personal basis, but clearly be less than 98%. There's a lot of data here indicating that we are getting unlawfully low pay under that state law. So we asked, what are the peer institutions that you think are good peers for what we do here? 50% said Portland State. University of Missouri at St. Louis was 46%. Number 2. Number 3 was Cleveland State. Number 4 was Wichita State. 5 was University of Colorado, Colorado Springs. 6 was Boise State. 7 was Eastern Michigan. 8 was Western Michigan, and 9 was UNC Greensboro. Now, that's a really important number because the law does say that you have to compare between 7 and 9 peer institutions. If all of your peer institutions are in the state of Nebraska, you can then compare fewer. I think the number is 3 or 5 that you can compare if every peer institution is a peer institution within the state of Nebraska. Otherwise, it does have to be 7 to 9. So these would be the 9 that are faculty picked as being the most likely peer institutions. And that was based on a list that administration gave us the last bargaining session, saying that we will pick your peers from amongst this list. That's what they said, but they didn't tell us who they picked or how they calculated then the salary out of that list. So now what happens if we're being paid unlawfully low is that we go forward to the CIR. The CIR is the Committee on Industrial Relations. It is the official body that handles union law here in the state of Nebraska. They are obligated then to calculate what 98 to 102% is. And then if what we're being paid is below that, they have 3 years. The university would then have 3 years to make up the difference. And if it's above that, also they'd have 3 years to go down to 98 to 102% of our peers. So we asked, well, if But there's a problem here, and that's that the CIR is rather conservative. I mean, they are confined by the law. They have to rule according to the law, but they're conservative. They're it's the CIR in Nebraska, so they're not necessarily pro worker and pro strong and empowered workers, certainly. We have, but our members said nearly 2/3 of them said that they would support going to the CIR if needed to get administration to share this basic information about who they're counting as our peer institutions and how they're then calculating our salary at our peer institutions. Here's the breakdown. 30, the plurality was 39.3% said they strongly support taking that risk and moving forward to the CIR, even though it means that we, might have to pay lawyer fees and that we then could potentially be held to be paid too much, and the CIR would then lower our salaries. That is a possibility. 26.2% said they somewhat support fighting for fair pay, but they'd rather work with administration. I think that's our position. We'd rather work with administration to make sure that we get fairness and transparency in the process of calculating that 98 to 102% from our peer institutions. That's the closest, I think. I mean, this is just me talking off the cuff here, but looking at the executive committee, that's really what we'd like to do. And that's, I think, what the bargaining committee. I mean, everyone, I think, wants that. That's what everyone should want. That's what the administration. That's what the legislature wants. The legislature wants us to get it out of their hands so they can make sure that if they're cutting corners, they're not doing it by paying less than is competitive. Right? That's what the law is about. Another 21.3% said that they want to support the fight, but that they're nervous that it could backfire because the CIR is so conservative. And then a very small group, very small indeed, and maybe nobody. And this, he doesn't even register in this pie graph. Oh yeah, so it's definitely nobody said that I believe that they're overpaid and that the CIR would actually bump our pay down if we went in front of them and asked for a determination. There were a lot of people who had individual comments here, as you can see. We got 40, 30, 70, about 90, so about 15% had individual comments. Most of them were, we want more information. We just want to know more. I think there's not a lot of ways to get more information. The best way to get more information is through a survey like this. So this survey did provide more information. And then the other ways we're trying to figure out what the Department of Education considers our peer group, and how, when we're going to try to calculate what they in that peer group, the Federal Department of Education considers our peer group, what their salaries are amongst those peers. Our early calculations look like we are not being paid competitively. So that's what we say. That's what we're finding so far, but we're trying to collect that data. So what happens next? Well, the bargaining begins in September and must end by law by March 15th. The AAUP hopes to partner with the administration, do what the legislature asked us to do, and have a fair and transparent way to determine a peer list that is actually competitive peers, and then pay within 98 to 102% of that. And then we can argue between whether it's going to be 98 or it's going to be 102. That's what we want. That's what we think would be fair. Just do what the law says. And we do intend to secure competitive pay for all, and we're looking forward to figuring out how that's going to happen with our partners in with the Board of Regents and in the Chancellor's office. So thank you so much. I hope that clarifies some things about where we're headed. And if you have any comments or questions, I hope you'll ask and let us know as we move forward.